Well, I think just going back a few years after 2011, I say the proof is in the pudding. You look at League of Women Voters recognized that danger. They said that it was an incumbent protection plan. I think that former Secretary of State Dennis Richardson was looking forward when he put his redistricting reform task force together that brought together independents, Republicans, Democrats, and he saw the danger. And I really think that he foresaw this day coming, and he put together that task force to look at the dangers of redistricting and how incumbents and how it just has a political nature to it. And I think one thing, as I'm talking to your viewers, needs to know that Oregon is much more purple than they may think. In the 2018 governor's race, the winner earned 50.1% of the vote, yet Democrats today control more than 60% of state House seats and 80% of Oregon's congressional seats. So I think, again, we have to reach out to those voters. They can look at these maps themselves. It's out there in the public eye, and we really look forward to their feedback.
Representative Salinas, I'd like to ask you the same. Would you please respond?
Yeah, so I am certainly not going to question the will of the voters. Oregon has always had a fair and honest election system. And if Oregon voters want to vote for a candidate who may not be of their same party, they have every right to do so. Furthermore, it's impossible to give Republicans what they want because we'd have districts that snake through the entire state and cherry pick a few Republican voters here and there from our most densely populated centers. And if I haven't said it, and I don't think I have, we are expressly prohibited from redistricting based on party affiliation. But it does concern me that House Republican maps were drawn and what their intentions may truly be. I can't help who lives in which districts and which parties they affiliate with. Oregon residents get to live where they want and register or not register with whatever party affiliation they want. And legislators certainly don't get to decide districts based on that. Mm-hmm. And so, I think the biggest thing here too is this idea that there is really no such thing as an independent commission. I think there's this kind of false narrative out there that these independent commissions are truly independent. And I don't think that's actually the case. So I think really what ends up happening is that there are special interest groups who have the wealth and can pour money into a new system that will influence elections and silence those they don't agree with. And we're really here, our job here is to represent Oregonians through a fair process that ensures representation.
And we will be posting that interview in full online. The state legislature will make the final decision by September 27th, and they are taking public comment during a virtual listening tour that starts next week.
Well, Catherine, the Oregon Employment Department say the biggest job vacancies are in healthcare and hospitality. Many workers cite health and safety as their reasons for leaving those jobs. And with COVID case counts still high, analysts estimate it may not be a quick return to the workforce.
The Employment Department does a job vacancy survey every quarter, talking to private employers about any available openings. The most recent data is from this spring, showing a record number of job vacancies, just under 100,000. That's about 30,000 more than the previous record set in 2018. The vast majority of those employers cited these positions were difficult to fill. One analyst says for states that ended unemployment benefits early, the bounce back was not quick.
Only about 1 out of 8 of those people had a job in 2 months. So, it's not the hiring boom that I think most employers wanted, or the legislators in those states too.
Anna Johnson expects a similar pattern in Oregon.
I think there's also the possibility that people have savings built up from these benefits. Then, because of the COVID concerns, maybe they will try to stay out of the labor force as long as they can.
Johnson says this is the first recession with mass loss of jobs across the majority of industries and then a rush of hiring. She tells us workers have options now, forcing employers to become more competitive with their hires.
I also spoke with restaurant owners in Portland about the unique challenges for the hospitality industry in this area. We'll have more on their perspective coming up tonight after the game.
Workers are saying COVID more. They're scared of COVID and getting sick. And a lot of these job vacancies that we've seen out there in healthcare, which is kind of a dangerous place to be right now. And they're in leisure and hospitality. Do you want to go work in a restaurant where you're face to face with the public?
Anna Johnson says the majority of employers are listing the open positions as difficult to fill.
We've never had a recession where every industry kind of lost jobs en masse at the same time and then tried to fill them back up. So workers do have options now. If every restaurant on the street is hiring, you can kind of pick.
Here at Botanist, the owner tells me they used to see 100 resumes for an open position. Now they're lucky to get 10. And the management says they're also worried about keeping current employees.
Each one of my bartenders, each one of my cooks, each one of my servers gets at least 3 job offers a week saying, come work for us, we'll pay you this, we'll give you this. And so wages are an all-time high and it's super competitive.
Robbie Wilson says money made in the early rush of summer was lost due to higher wages and supply chain shortages. He's worried about keeping staff moving into fall and tells us other locations are at risk of closing.
I think there's going to be a really mass closure of restaurants in the next 2 weeks. A lot of people I know are kind of on their last legs.
The Botanist owner says foot traffic went down as COVID-19 cases rose. He's hopeful restaurants like his, with extensive outdoor seating, can still stay viable in the season ahead.
Well, Deb, the county health officer tells me they're not aware of any outbreaks linked to people living outside, but they are still keeping the Jupiter Hotel open as a voluntary isolation site for those who would otherwise be in shelters. This comes as other counties sound the alarm.
Agencies in Marion County are looking at new strategies. That includes efforts to educate the homeless community about the dangers of the Delta variant while providing access to testing and the vaccine.
But it is coming through with service providers. We're having more individuals test positive for COVID in our shelter environments, in our resource center spaces. We're seeing them come through our local clinics at higher rates.
However, in Multnomah County, health officials say they saw less than 10 positive cases of people known to be homeless in the last 2 months. But Dr. Jennifer Vines tells us they likely are not reaching many people testing positive due to the current high level of cases.
Do you think enough is being done to protect those vulnerable populations?
I think that's a good question. I think we've done a lot starting a year and a half ago in separating out those who were clearly high risk for severe COVID and getting them into housing, spacing out our shelters, setting up the isolation motel so that people would have a place to go.
Advocates in Portland say they're considering changes like limiting staff if the current surge has a larger impact on the homeless community.
How would we reduce hours? If we had to pull back, how could we do that and still function? If we had to change or take away portions of our outreach, what would that look like? And so right now we're in the process of trying to build those contingency plans.
Nonprofits tell us the next challenge is funding, as many grant opportunities at both the state and federal level closed just in the last few months.